If your tapers keep coming out too dark, too bulky around the ridge, or they never blend right into curly hair, this video is gonna fix that. I'm breaking down exactly how I start my mid-taper on curls, step by step, so that you can get a cleaner blend, save time, and stop creating extra work for yourself. Watch the full process because one small mistake can ruin the entire taper. My client came back sooner than usual, but in the event that you have a client with overgrown hair or hair that's been growing for a while and he hasn't came back to get a cut and it's all grown out, before I set in my first guideline, I'm reading the shape of the head, identifying where the ridge is. This was one of the biggest mistakes barber students make. They jump straight into a fade without a plan. On a curly hair, understanding where the weight naturally sits is what determines whether your taper will blend or your fade blends smoothly or stays bulky. Initially, I'll remove all the excess bulk. Notice that I'm not trying to create the fade yet, I'm just simply making the blend easier for myself later. If your tapers always seem too dark, it's usually because you're trying to fade through too much weight instead of controlling it first. Then I put my first guideline in. The key here is consistency, making your guideline stay even all around. Next, I'm beginning to work my way up through the fade. One thing that helped me improve faster was thinking of the fade in sections. Don't look at the entire taper at once. Focus on removing one line at a time and completing one section before moving to the next. That's how you stay in control and avoid creating unnecessary light spots. As I work into the parietal ridge area, or in other words, the temporal area that protrudes on the sides of the head, where the head sticks out a little bit more than other areas, this is where most barbers struggle. Curly hair naturally holds weight in this section, and if you attack it too aggressively, you'll end up creating a shelf or pushing the taper too high. Instead, I'm using the corners of my blade, gradually chipping away at the darkness while keeping the shape balanced. As I go in with my 0.5 guard here with the lever open, and as I work it closed, I want to show you that another thing to remember is that not every dark area needs to be removed. Curly hair should still have some natural weight. The goal isn't just to make everything light. The goal is to create a smooth transition from the fade into the curls while maintaining shape and structure. Now we're getting into the detailing stage. At this point, I'm not looking for major guidelines anymore. I'm just looking for small shadows and inconsistencies. This is where patience pays off. Small adjustments with the corner of the clippers can make a huge difference in the overall finish. Notice how I've been using a brush to brush off the extra hairs and debris on the skin just so that I can see what's already been cut and keep a cleanly area. But notice how when I use the comb, one mistake a lot of newer barbers make is continuing to cut after the fade is already done. Sometimes what looks like a guideline is actually just a difference in hair density. Learning when to stop is just as important as knowing when or what to cut. Same exact steps here on the back, and that's pretty much how I start and build my taper on curly hair. Remember, the cleanest taper comes from controlling the bulk, understanding the ridge area, or in this case in the back, the occipital bone area, and that's just where the head sticks out. And staying disciplined with your sections. If you can master those fundamentals, your blend will get cleaner, your haircuts will become smoother and consistent, and you will stop creating extra work for yourself. If any of this breakdown helped you out or is helping you out, make sure you subscribe for more barber content. And let me know in the comment section what haircut you want me to break down next. When using a full shaver, you just want to start as low as possible and flick up so that you're not setting in a harsh line, but don't go up to the line. You just want to go right up under the line so that everything's seamless. Going in with the lever completely open, I'm going up about a full inch here, giving myself room to create a full blend. I don't necessarily want to go up too high, but I don't need to leave it too low either because I want to see some graduation. Notice the further I go up, the more flick out that I use just so that I can start to blend from the skin up into the actual shape of the head and the curls on the top, so I can get into that without putting in a hard line. I don't want to go up and in, I want to go up and out and scoop so that everything blends smoothly If your tapers always look too dark, chances are you're not removing enough bulk before you start fading. When guidelines won't disappear, it's usually because the section above them hasn't been opened up enough. Instead of attacking a line, look at what's creating the contrast around it first. Now I'm gonna start working my way back down. With curly hair, again, I'm not trying to eliminate all the weight. You need to keep some density to make it look natural, and the goal is a smooth transition, not removing every dark spot you see. And that shelf usually comes from skipping the debulking process or trying to blend too aggressively in one area. I'd rather make multiple light passes than force the blend and create a new problem. The blend should only go as high as necessary to remove the bulk. A lot of barbers keep chasing darkness and end up pushing the taper higher and higher. Know where you want the fade or the haircut to finish before you start. A professional taper still has weight. If you're continuously cutting and searching for perfection, and you're usually one step away from taking the fade too high. Learn to recognize the difference between a guideline and a natural density. The reason I'm able to go that high up in the taper with a low number guard is because of pressure. It's all pressure. And so with light pressure and using just one side of the blade, you can manipulate the dark spots easily. Quick question, what part of the fade or the taper do you struggle with most? Getting rid of the bulk, blending the ridges, or removing guidelines? Drop in the comments because that's what I'll break down in my future videos. As you can see now, I'm repeating the same exact steps on the opposite side. I'm not gonna spend a ton of time here because the process doesn't change. One thing I want newer barbers to understand is that consistency beats complexity every single time. If your first side came out clean, trust your system and repeat it. A lot of barber students struggle because they're constantly changing guards, changing techniques, or trying something different on each side of the head. The goal is to develop a process you can rely on. The more consistent your steps are, the more consistent your results will be. This is always a good reminder that barbering isn't about moving fast, it's about being efficient. Once you understand the sequence, every haircut becomes easier because you're not guessing, and what comes next will always be there. If you're still learning, don't get discouraged. If your tapers aren't perfect yet, every barber you've looked up to has spent countless hours making mistakes, fixing them, and learning from them. Focus on getting a little better each haircut, and the results will come. As you can see, this side is blending together the same way as the first side because I'm following the same process. Trust the fundamentals. Stay patient and let the systems work for themselves. Now I'm moving into one of the most overlooked parts of blending curly hair, the transition from the ridge area into the curls on top. A lot of barbers focus so much on the fade that they forget the blend doesn't stop at the ridge. If there's a shelf sitting between the taper and the curls, it's gonna make the entire haircut look disconnected. This is where thinning shears come in. I'm not using them to remove a ton of hair, I'm using them to soften the transition and break into the bulk that's creating the shelf. Think of it as connecting the fade into the curls rather than taking more weight out of the fade itself. One mistake I see barber students make is attacking this area with the clippers. The problem is that the clippers can remove too much weight too quickly and create even bigger disconnect. Thinning shears allow me to blend gradually while keeping the curls looking natural. Pay attention to where I'm working. I'm targeting the areas that's visually heavy, not the entire top. If you start thinning everywhere, you lose the shape and density. The goal is controlled weight removal, not making the hair thinner overall. After a few passes, you'll notice the shelf starts to soften and the transition becomes much smoother. This is one of those details that can take a taper from looking good to looking professional. Small adjustments like these are what separate a clean haircut from a great haircut. So whenever you blend it into curls, remember this: don't just fade into the ridge. Blend the ridge into the curls. That's the detail that creates a seamless transition and keep the hair balanced from every angle. Might I remind you how my client came in looking, and as barbers, it's our job to execute at high levels and give our client exactly what they came for. And without further ado, this is the final results. And if you like this video, you learned anything, please share this video with a friend, family member, or fellow barber. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell. My name is Kel, and I'll catch you in the next one. And as always, stay studious.